How does a loving mother and dedicated teacher vanish without a trace from her own neighborhood? This is the haunting question that clouded the minds of Vancouver residents on October 18, 2006. Manjit Panghali, a woman of Indian origin living the Canadian dream, was reported missing. She was a mother to a sweet 3-year-old girl named Maya, a wife to Mukhtiar Panghali, and a beacon of kindness and warmth in her community. Manjit's disappearance sent shockwaves through her family and the wider community. Her family, who had journeyed from India to Canada in pursuit of a better life, were left grappling with the unimaginable. The Panghalis had worked tirelessly to cultivate a life of happiness and opportunity for their young daughter. And Manjit, a woman with an infectious smile and a heart full of dreams, was a key pillar in this pursuit. The day of her disappearance started like any other. Manjit, always the dedicated teacher, had attended a prenatal yoga class that evening, her second child only months away. But when the night drew in, Manjit was nowhere to be found. Initial reactions ranged from disbelief to dread. The cheerful teacher, the doting mother, the loving wife, could she really have disappeared without a trace? As news of Manjit's disappearance spread, a palpable sense of fear and confusion swept over the city. Whispers turned into hushed conversations, and hushed conversations turned into public outcry. Where was Manjit? Who could have taken her? And most importantly, why? Manjit was the kind of person who greeted everyone with a smile. She was loved and cherished by all who knew her. The idea that someone could harm her was not just shocking, it was incomprehensible. As days passed, the hope of finding Manjit alive dwindled. With each passing day, her family's worst fears seemed closer to becoming a reality. And the question remained, echoing in their minds and in the hearts of the entire community: how does a loving mother and dedicated teacher vanish without a trace from her own neighborhood? Just when hope was fading, a devastating discovery was made. 5 days after Manjit Panghali's disappearance, the stark reality of her fate came to light. On the shores of a local beach, a charred body was found. A horrifying sight that sent cold shivers down the spines of the people of Vancouver. The remains, partially burnt and abandoned, were soon identified as Manjit Panghali. The news spread like wildfire, and the community was gripped with shock and horror. Manjit, the woman who greeted everyone with a warm smile, the woman who was a beacon of hope and positivity, was no more. Her life had been brutally extinguished, leaving behind a 3-year-old daughter and a community in mourning. The sparkle in Manjit's eyes was replaced with the haunting image of her charred remains. The laughter that once filled her home was replaced with a deafening silence. The dream of a better life that brought her family to Canada was now smeared with the harsh reality of a heinous crime. The police were quick to respond, and the crime scene was swarming with officers, their faces etched with determination and resolve. They knew they had a daunting task ahead. They had to bring justice to Manjit and closure to her family. The investigation was prompt and meticulous. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, every lead was followed. The hunt for Manjit's killer had begun. As the news of the gruesome discovery echoed through the city, a chilling question hung in the air. Who could do such a thing? Who could extinguish a life so full of promise and warmth? Who could inflict such horror on a woman who was loved by all? The city of Vancouver was on edge, the sense of safety and security shattered. It was a grim reminder of the darkness that lurks in the corners of society, a darkness that had claimed the life of Manjit Panghali. The question on everyone's lips was, who could do such a thing? As the investigation unfolded, the mystery deepened. The police, burdened with the grim task of piecing together the final moments of Manjit Panghali's life, were initially at a loss. The crime scene, a serene beach that had been transformed into a macabre tableau, offered few immediate leads. It was a chilling reminder of the brutality of the crime that had been committed and the elusive nature of the perpetrator. In a city as vibrant and bustling as Vancouver, it was hard to believe that such a heinous act could go unnoticed, unreported. But that was the reality the investigators had to grapple with. No eyewitnesses, no smoking gun, no proverbial breadcrumb trail to follow. The killer had left no trace, no calling card, just a haunting absence, a void where Manjit once was. Yet the police were relentless, combing through every shred of evidence, no matter how minute. They interviewed friends, family, neighbors, anyone who might have seen something, anything, that could lead them to the monster who had taken Manjit's life. The community, shocked and fearful, cooperated, eager to see justice served. The city of Vancouver, once a haven for Manjit and her family, was now a city under siege, gripped by fear and uncertainty. The once friendly faces of neighbors now seemed suspicious, their innocent actions potentially sinister. The pressure was mounting on the police to solve the case, to restore a sense of safety and normalcy to the shaken community. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the leads were few and far between. The case threatened to go cold, but the authorities were not ready to give up. They knew they owed it to Manjit, to her family, to her 3-year-old daughter Maya, to bring the killer to justice. The killer was still at large, but the police were determined to find them. Their resolve was unshaken, the investigation was just beginning, and they vowed to leave no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. Finding the person responsible for Manjit's death became the top priority for the investigators. As they delved into the case, they faced a labyrinth of clues, some leading to breakthroughs, others to dead ends. The first significant piece of evidence was Manjit's charred mobile phone, found near the crime scene. It was a grim reminder of the heinous act committed, but it also provided a glimmer of hope. The investigators hoped the phone could reveal some crucial communication or a hint about the perpetrator. Then, there was the chilling CCTV footage capturing Manjit's last seen moments. Yet it was grainy, and identifying any potential suspect from it was like finding a needle in a haystack. Nevertheless, the footage confirmed that Manjit was not alone that ill-fated night, intensifying the mystery and the urgency to solve it. As the investigation advanced, the community was in turmoil. The news of Manjit's brutal death had sent shockwaves across Vancouver. A cloud of fear hung over the city. The residents started to question their safety, parents held their children a little closer, and friends checked in on each other a little more often. It was as if the city was holding its breath, waiting for the killer to be found. Despite the setbacks, the investigators were relentless. They sifted through mountains of evidence, tirelessly interviewed potential witnesses, and pieced together the fragments of Manjit's last hours. Every bit of information, every lead, was a stepping stone towards unmasking the killer. And then, almost like a plot twist in a suspense thriller, a breakthrough came, a lead so unexpected and shocking that it would change the course of the investigation. As the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together, the face of the killer began to emerge from the shadows. The answer was close, but it would shock everyone. The killer was finally revealed, and it was someone no one had suspected. The news sent shockwaves through the community and left Manjit's family reeling. This was not the face of a stranger, but of someone they had trusted, someone they had welcomed into their home. The revelation was like a punch to the gut, a cruel twist in an already heartbreaking tale. The killer was none other than Manjit Panghali, Manjit's own husband. The person who was supposed to protect her, to love her, was the one who had extinguished her light. The man who was a father to their 3-year-old daughter Maya, the person who had promised to cherish Manjit in sickness and in health, was now exposed as her murderer. The evidence was damning. The police had discovered a series of phone calls made by Mukhtiar on the night of Manjit's disappearance. These calls were not to the police reporting his wife missing, but to a known criminal, purchasing a prepaid cell phone. Further investigation revealed he had used this phone to lure Manjit to the beach where her charred remains were later found. Surveillance footage showed Mukhtiar buying a gas can and lighter from a local convenience store, items later found near the crime scene. His alibi fell apart under scrutiny, and his suspicious behavior in the days following Manjit's disappearance only added to the mounting evidence. The public was stunned. The community felt betrayed, and Manjit's family was left grappling with the unimaginable. They had lost a beloved daughter, sister, and mother, and the person responsible was someone they had once called family. The revelation left them questioning everything they thought they knew about Mukhtiar and their life together. The truth was out, but the question remained. Why? What could drive a man to such a horrific act? What could lead him to destroy the life they had built together, to leave his daughter without a mother? The search for answers would lead investigators down a dark path, revealing a motive as shocking as the crime itself. Understanding why Manjit was killed was the final piece of the puzzle. This was a question that haunted not only the investigators, but also everyone who knew Manjit. What could have driven someone to such a horrific act against a woman known for her kindness and her smile? As the investigation delved into the motive, a chilling narrative began to unravel. The killer, as it turned out, was none other than Manjit's own husband, Manjit Panghali. A man who was supposed to be her protector had turned into her executioner. But why? What could have driven him to such an extreme? Mukhtiar, like Manjit, was a hard-working individual. He was a mathematics teacher, well-respected in his community. But beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary man lay a volatile mix of jealousy, control, and rage. Investigators discovered that Mukhtiar had a history of domestic abuse. He was a controlling husband who couldn't stand the idea of his wife outshining him. Manjit, being an ambitious woman, had dreams and aspirations of her own. She wanted to make a difference in the world through her teaching. This, however, didn't sit well with Mukhtiar's male ego. This revelation sent shockwaves through Manjit's family and the community. They had been living in the shadow of a monster, unaware of his true nature. The very man they had trusted had betrayed them in the most brutal way possible. The pain of this betrayal was immense, but it also brought a strange sense of clarity. They finally understood the monster that had been hiding in plain sight. Manjit's tragic story is a stark reminder of how domestic violence can escalate to fatal levels. It shows how important it is to recognize and address signs of abuse before it's too late. The motive was as shocking as the crime itself. In the end, justice was served, but the pain remained. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation as the trial of Manjit Panghali's killer began. A saga that had gripped the city of Vancouver for months was finally reaching its climax. The prosecution presented a watertight case, meticulously piecing together the evidence that pointed to the real culprit. The defense, on the other hand, tried their level best to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative, but the evidence was overwhelming. And then, the moment of truth arrived. The jury delivered their verdict: guilty. The room was filled with a sense of relief, but it was bittersweet. Yes, justice had been served, but it couldn't bring back Manjit. The sentencing followed soon after. The killer was given a life sentence with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Manjit's family, friends, and the wider community breathed a sigh of relief. The monster who had taken Manjit from them would spend the rest of his life behind bars, but their relief was tinged with sadness. Nothing could fill the void left by Manjit's absence. Manjit's legacy, however, lives on. Her story touched the hearts of many, prompting a renewed focus on the safety of women in Vancouver. Her case led to the implementation of several safety measures and programs aimed at protecting women from such heinous acts. In the wake of this tragedy, the community rallied together, vowing to ensure that Manjit's death was not in vain. Vigils were held, funds were raised for her daughter Maya's education, and awareness campaigns were launched to help prevent such incidents from happening again. Manjit's story is more than just a tale of a heinous crime. It's a testament to the resilience of a community rocked by tragedy. A community that chose to fight back against the darkness with unity and resolve. Even in her absence, Manjit continues to inspire and bring about change in the society she once called home. Manjit's story is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. Manjit Panghali's case was a tragic event that shook the city of Vancouver. A vibrant woman full of dreams and aspirations was brutally taken away from her family and us. This story, though heartbreaking, serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the most unsuspecting facades. We traced the initial disappearance to the shocking discovery, followed the path of the investigation, and finally, the revelation of the true killer. This case taught us the importance of vigilance and the necessity of questioning even the most seemingly harmless situations. It's a reminder that we all need to keep our eyes open, stay aware of our surroundings, and never take our safety for granted. But let's not forget, in the midst of all this darkness, there was light. The light of justice for Manjit and the resilience of her family. Remember, darkness can be found in the most unexpected places, but so can the light. Stay safe, and thank you for joining us on the dark side of crime.